AITAH, for banning my in-laws from seeing my children and threatening my husband with divorce if he doesn't agree. August 2nd, 2024. My mother-in-law has a total of 10 grandchildren. Mine are her least favorite, and as long as the children were young and didn't understand it was tolerable, but now they suffer a lot and notice the favoritism, and visiting the in-laws has become an ordeal for my children, especially when the other cousins are there. Now I have decided to eliminate this anxiety from my children and forbid me in-laws to ever be in my children's lives again. Almost everyone on my husband's family, including my husband, are calling me an and many are saying that I am an arrogant and hateful woman, and that's why I never was a favorite of my mother-in-law. But see, this is where I disagree. It doesn't matter if she likes me or not. If I am the arrogant one, or she's the selfish, bitter cunt, it shouldn't be taken out on the children. And here's an example of the train of thought that made me come to this conclusion. I have a sister and a brother, both married with kids. I hate my brother-in-law because he is an abusive ass, and I love my sister-in-law. I love all my nibblings because they are my family and didn't choose their parents. In other words, my children are her grandchildren and her son's children, no matter who I am. Now she is calling my husband, crying every day about how I am forbidding her from seeing her grandchildren, which is beyond me, because why would she even care when she doesn't like them? Because I finally said something? My other reason is that I don't want my children to resent their cousins for being treated better, because it is not the cousin's fault, either that adults aren't even pretending to be civil. My husband said that I have no right, and he has the same amount of say to decide who meets his children. So I told him that fine, he could choose us or mommy, and we could divorce, and I would make sure his mom to never see our children enforced legally, because what started all of this is one of my sister-in-laws sending me chat logs after chat logs of his mother spewing hatred about my children, especially my daughter because she looks like me. AITAH, can I forbid my husband's family to see our children even with him believing we could fix this in a less dramatic way? His mother is very willing to apologize and talk, and she says that she loves our children very much. But for me, that ship has sailed and sunken. My daughter does not want to see anyone from that side of the family. Additional information from OOP, giving an example of her children not being treated equally as their cousins in their father's family. OOP. My children have never got any real gifts from their grandparents, not even on their birthdays. When my daughter turned 7, her cousins got bigger gifts. They also always forgot to buy them treats, etc. One time I came late to the party because of work, and my husband was out with his dad after dropping the children off. They were alone without me or my husband for about half an hour, and when I got there, earlier than she expected, she had all the grandchildren sitting on the dining table, and only my children sat there and watched while the rest had cake and chocolate milk. When she saw me, she started talking about how she forgot my children and started rummaging in the freezer for treats. I cried all night thinking about the look on my children's faces. My husband thought I was exaggerating. It was just snacks. I told him he would never understand if he thought it was about the food or the material things. Our marriage deteriorated ever since. Whenever he tried to apologize, I asked him if he understood my exaggeration, or is he just apologizing because I was hurt? He never understood. Commenter, is this a race thing as well? Are you and your husband the same race or color? OP, nope, he is white. I am not. Commenter, so what has your husband done about this? Has he set down some rules for his mom? Is he upset about what his mom said about his own daughter? Has he told her that talking about his daughter that way is inappropriate? Or does he just want to believe his mom's crocodile tears just to take the path of least resistance? OP, he is absolutely not upset about what his mom said because we shouldn't have read these chats, and people are free to express themselves when the chat is supposed to be private. It is only bad if she said this to our children, except our children aren't dumb. They don't need to read the chat, they know how she feels about them. Commenter, what does your pussy of a husband have to say about all the obvious abuse she lobs at them? He's a failure of a parent if he thinks what she says to them is okay. OP, the only one he was angry about is a picture she taken of our youngest laying in the grass, and you can see their pet's gravestone behind his head, and she wrote, "Here lies the youngest son of the bitches like a retarded dog. Doesn't he look retarded? Who just falls asleep in this heat?" Commenter, can you give some specific examples of how she hates your children? Seems if she hated them, she'd welcome you, saying she doesn't ever have to see them again. Do be aware that you will have no say in how much contact your in-laws have with the kids while your husband has his visitation time. Unless these chat logs actually include tangible threats of physical harm, the courts will not restrict who you husband and the kids spend time with during his custody time. You and your husband sound like you need to get some marriage counseling to get on the same page, or to help navigate co-parenting as divorced parents. OOP, you would think that, wouldn't you? That she would be over the moon that she doesn't have to have them in her life. But my guess is that she enjoys the mistreatment. She loves showing obvious favoritism and see their reaction. Like when she calls them fat, or my daughter a giraffe, or when she forgets to buy them gifts when everyone else gets one, or pushes them out of pictures with her other grandkids. Smelly, dirty, snotty, etc. Commenter, family therapist. Let your husband hear from your children and you with a third party, and maybe you can all figure this out together. Good luck, OP. I have been thinking about therapy for my daughter because she is 7 and understands very well what's happening, but maybe the whole family is a good idea, OOP on, if the family on her side is different than her husband's family. Do they dote on OOP's children? OOP, I am so sorry. Fortunately for my children, they have 2 doting grandparents, a grandaunt, and 1 doting great-grandmother. 2 doting, actually. I stand no chance when they're around. I don't believe in quantity, however. I'd rather have my children surrounded by fewer people who love them than many who actually hate them. OOP on her children's ages. And if the husband has listened to their children about his parents, OOP, F7, M5, and M4. The agreement is that we never see his family again. When the children are old enough, they decide if they want their grandparents in their lives or not, or it will be divorce, and I will make sure everyone will see the hundreds of messages she sent about my children. I can't publish the pictures she'd taken of them to mock them, but I sure can use them in court. And all the evidence of her trying to teach my children to hate me, and all the witnesses who have seen, heard her call my children smelly and disgusting, or fat, or call my daughter ostrich/giraffe. My daughter has tall neck like me, which makes her try to bow whenever her grandma is around so she wouldn't be bullied. Making it very clear in my post that my children are hurting should be, and is for the majority that are commenting here, enough to make a judgment. I made it very clear that my children are hurting to a degree that I was worried they would grow up resenting the cousins. I don't need apologies. You fought so hard for a woman who is making small children hurting. Move on, lady. What does any details matter if the most important one, that my children are hurting now they are older and can sense the mistreatment, is included? Why do details matter if my daughter feels anxiety when she hears that we are visiting that side of the family, which I included in my post? Why do details matter if I wrote that I was worried that our children might grow resentful of their cousins, which I included in my post? Shouldn't explaining how my children are feeling right now be enough? Would I be able to force any adult here, especially the YTA team, to spend time with people who hate them? Why is it okay to force my children? Because they are just kids and can't say no? Update, August 7th, 2024. Hi, so I got what I wanted in the end. My husband was reluctant to hear me out or the children. I told him, what's the point of even having a family if you already have a family? What's the point of trying to raise our children to have their own autonomy if we don't listen to them when they say no? He of course called me dramatic. We invited his older brother and wife for dinner. The brother brought up the issue, and I was very honest about what I wanted and what the children wanted. The brother laughed it off as me always despising his mother, so I asked him if he read the chats between his wife, his sister, his mom, and his other sister-in-law, the one who ratted them out. And he at first denied it. Then he said, yeah, I did. I asked him what he would have done if his mother or mother-in-law wrote these things about his children, and he'd just say, ha, she would never even dream of seeing them again, not even if hell froze over. So I asked then, why my children? He looked at me, then my husband, his brother. Then he casually said, because I am a real man, but your husband has always been a pussy. I don't talk in balls and pussies per usual, just retelling what he told me. My husband was silent the whole time. I said, well, I don't have balls, but your mother will never see my children again, not even if hell freezes over. So tell that to your brother or anyone for that matter. My husband took our daughter out for a dinner and movie, a tradition of theirs, and he probably talked to her about her grandparents. She told him they don't like her, and she feels sad about it. She made it very clear she doesn't want to talk to them. She told them she had grandparents, my folks, so that's enough. When he got home, he said that we don't need to visit again. We will not accept any gifts from them, and that he can visit them alone. I said thank you. Additional information from OOP to clarify the relationships in her husband's family. OOP. They are 3 brothers and a sister. The rich one is the oldest brother. My husband is 3rd. The one in this update is the oldest brother. The sister-in-law that ratted them out is the youngest son's wife. Sorry for the confusion. Relevant comments. Commenter. Good for sticking up for your kids. I'd lose quite a bit of respect for hubby though. OP. I have TBH. Hopefully some therapy and I can get over that. Commenter. I'm sorry to say this, but you've still got a real problem. When you felt disrespected by his family, and when you expressed that your children were hurt by this, he wanted to change nothing. When he felt disrespected, he said it's time to make a change. Your husband is a nutless, selfish man boy. OP. I thought one problem at a time kind of arrangement. He is aware that we have problems, but both are willing to work together to solve them before we called it quits. AITAH. For telling my fiancé there will be no wedding if she keeps insisting I invite my parents. August 6, 2024. So some backstory. My dad left the family and went no contact when I, 35M, was 4. My mom remarried and had 2 kids with my stepdad. My stepdad never treated me poorly, but always made clear that I was Dale, fake name, to him. He was not my dad. My mom never tried to fix the relationship and honestly loved her new family and always saw me as a burden. That's what I thought, at least until it was confirmed after my freshman year of college when my mom asked me not to come home anymore. I blocked her after that phone call and have had no contact with her or my stepdad and half-brother since then. I do still speak to my half-sister, 25F, at her insistence, but that's my only contact. It took me a long time to deal with basically being kicked out of my family. I grew to be pretty independent and thought I'd live alone until I met my fiancé, 28F, 4 years ago. We have had a great relationship and her family opened up and invited me in with open arms. She comes from a pretty typical suburban family and they are great. Over the years, I've told her about my issues with my family. She has met my sister and she never pushed for more until we started planning the wedding. When we started talking about who we would invite, I talked about friends from college and co-workers and she kept saying I should invite my parents. At first, I thought she was just trying to gauge if I wanted to. I said I would not be inviting my parents. She said okay, but then brought it up again the next day. I calmly explained how much they hurt me, how growing up feeling you were unwanted and then having it confirmed at 19 really stunted my mental health. That over the years I have realized it's their problem, and if they ever want to solve it, then they can initiate. But I am in contact with my sister, and it is clear they are happy insisting I don't exist. It sucks, but it's their problem that they have thrust onto me. I can't be the one to solve it. I thought it had ended, but she has brought it up 2 more times. The last one was last night. We were about to start the save the dates, and she said, "Are you sure you don't want to invite you parents? I feel like I might just invite them on my side." And I snapped. I told her we should probably just throw the invitations away because if you can't respect what I've been through, then I don't want to marry you. I then went to our bedroom and fumed for a while. She came in to try to talk to me and I walked out, grabbed my keys and left. I came back around 11 p.m. after hanging with friends and slept on the couch. She left for work without a word to me and I don't know where we stand. Her behavior is unacceptable, but I feel I may have gone too far. What do you all think, AITAH? Relevant comment. Commenter. She's already in contact with your parents. This particular kind of obliviousness doesn't start with asking permission, but rather begging forgiveness. OP. I don't think so. I go to dinner or talk with my sister every Thursday night and she would hint if my mom and Dale wanted to reconcile. They don't. They honestly are happier pretending I don't exist. Update post, August 7th, 2024. Next day. I'm very overwhelmed by the response. So many thoughtful responses. Thank you to everyone who took the time to respond. I thought I would give an update. My fiancé normally gets home around 5:30 p.m., so after I was done working, I work from home. I waited for her to show up. Got very worried when it was 6 and she still wasn't home, but around 6:15 she shows up with my sister, which was a big surprise. While my sister and I connect every Thursday, we live 45 minutes away from each other, so her popping by is not normal. Both of them looked very anxious, so I was very confused. I asked them what was going on, and my sister just bursts into tears and saying she's sorry. After like 5 minutes of her losing her shit, she starts talking about the family. So apparently, when she told my mom and Dale that I got engaged, it started a rift between them. Not because they cared about me, but about how my half-brother, which is 27, is still living at home, single with no steady job. If you're thinking, wow, they kicked you out at 19, but let him stay there past when he could rent a car, don't worry, I said it out loud. My mom apparently wants to do the same to my half-brother, but Dale won't let her, so they are currently separated, with my mom living family and refusing to come back until my half-brother is out of the house. For some reason that defies all logic and reason, my sister thinks getting an invite to my wedding will bring the family together, since it was my engagement that caused the rift. At this, I blew up a bit. I told her that my engagement had nothing to do with it, that their shitty parenting and poor relationship skills caused it, and don't put that shit on me. She cried even harder, and this time I was not going to console her. My fiancé is just sitting there the whole time, so while my sister is trying to get herself together, I question my fiancé about this. She also tears up a bit, but tells me my sister was telling her about how I always bring up the family on our Thursday, and that deep down, I wanted to repair the relationship. I asked how she could believe that when I was very clear that I was no contact with my family and had never mentioned wanting to be in contact. I told her that I tell her everything and would never hold back something like this without talking to her. She's always been my sounding board. When I switched jobs last year, we talked about it every night and her advice mattered more than anyone else. She apologized and then wanted to show me her phone, specifically the messages between her and my sister. At this point, my sister perks up and asks her not to show the phone conversation, but my fiancé tells her she's trying to save her relationship. My sister has just been straight up lying about our Thursday conversations, saying how I was always talking about reconciling, how I would never admit it, but I'm partially at fault too, how I really want to see them all again. Every time I would tell my fiancé no, she would text my sister and my sister would talk about how I just couldn't be open because I was embarrassed. Just completely false. I would be perfectly happy never seeing any of them again. I can't believe my sister still sees them. At this, I tell my half-sister to leave and that Thursdays are canceled. My sister puts up a little bit of a fight, but I ignore her until she leaves. She keeps saying sorry over and over again, but honestly, I'm done with her. I've blocked her and will be no contact with her for the time being. A complete betrayal of my feelings and relationships. As for my fiancé and I am still very upset. She went behind my back with my sister, never asked me about it, let my sister manipulate her and honestly hurt me. I told her I love her, but my trust is broken. We've agreed to go to couples therapy therapy and see if we can repair the relationship. I hope we can, but I'd say it's a toss-up for me. She's got a lot of work to do. Relevant comment. Commenter. Oh, fuck off. Your fiancé was lied to and manipulated just as much as you. Don't hold this against her if you don't want to be the asshole. Now is the time to come together with her as she has seen how fucked they are. Tell her you love her and forgive her and never believe anything unless it's out of your mouth again. But that's up to you if you want to throw away the love of a good woman. OP. This is why we are doing couples counseling, not individual counseling. I don't think I'm blameless here. Update post 2, August 15th, 2024, 8 days later. A lot has happened. I'm just going to try and spill it in order for you all. So after my sister left, I told my fiancé I loved her, but I didn't trust her currently, that I felt she took my sister's side instead of mine. So I continued to sleep on the couch for a couple of nights. She was walking on eggshells around me and I hated it, but I also just wasn't ready to forgive her. Then Friday night after I hung out with friends, I came home and crashed on the couch. We had had an innocuous conversation, but she did ask me to come to bed, and I told her I just wasn't ready. I woke up to pee at like 3 a.m. and she was sleeping on the floor next to me. I don't know why exactly, but it touched me deeply, and I cried a little bit. It meant so much to know that she wanted to be near me even when I was being unloving. It really turned the tide. I woke up a few hours later and she was making me breakfast. A surprise, as Saturday is usually my big breakfast making day. We sat down to eat and she was keeping the conversation light, still on eggshells, but I decided to tell her a story from my childhood. I told her how Dale used to make breakfast for the family, but never included me. I was older, so I slept in, and when I got up, there was rarely any breakfast left, and if there was, it was in the fridge and no one would eat with me. I told her how much Saturday brunch with us meant to me, and how I hadn't really ever talked about it, and that wasn't fair to her. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. She apologized again, but I told her I didn't need it, that I forgave her, and while I still want to do couples therapy because I think it'll help me express my family issues with her in a healthy way, I'm ready to send out the save the dates. I then asked her to massage my back because the couch was a nightmare to sleep on, and she knew I was serious. I don't love people touching me, except my fiancé, and I had really not allowed it since the original incident. I know most of you did not want me to forgive my fiancé, but I love her, and she loves me. She made a huge mistake, but she's never experienced anything like what I went through, and she showed remorse. As for my sister, my mom reached out via a phone number that I didn't recognize and told me I should forgive my sister. I told her to screw off, and she just confirmed my sister really had never had a relationship with me at all, because if she knew me, she would know that contact with my mom would only make the situation worse. I then blocked the number. This happened Thursday evening. She tried to come by Sunday, but my fiancé and I were out. She left a note apologizing and saying she did not ask mom to contact me, and she's sorry she did that. My fiancé wants nothing to do with my sister anymore, but left the decision up to me. I told her that she was my family, so if she didn't want her there, she wouldn't be there. A little jab for sure, but she took it well and said she didn't want her there. We have been getting back to normal. It will still take time, and I think I may try individual therapy because as I was thinking about all the incidents, I'm not so sure the family situation is worse than even I have acknowledged, and it might be time to really deal with it. The save the dates were sent out yesterday and everything is still on. I'm not sure I'll update again, but thank you all for letting me process and vent. Relevant comments. Commenter. I'm curious to know if you sent a save the date to your sister. I apologize if it was addressed and I missed it. OP. We did not. We just crossed her off the list. My side of the aisle is going to be a little emptier than my fiancé, haha, but that's okay. She's the family I want. Commenter. I don't understand if eating breakfast on Saturday as a child was so important. Why didn't you just get up early and eat with the family? OOP. It's clear many of you have had terrific relationships with your parents and or step-parents and never had to deal with a Dale who would roll his eyes, look annoyed and look at his other siblings and say something like, looks like he's ruined daddy kid time before. I'm happy you didn't have to deal with it, but I'm tired of having to explain and reopen painful memories for your public entertainment when I was coming here for advice and to vent, not to entertain. This was an update as a thank you. Kind of wish I hadn't done it. Definitely won't update again.